Thank you, everyone. I hope you can hear me. So can I just click through it? Actually, it's not me who will bring it on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Irina. So we thought, Monday morning, what a perfect time to be awake, up early at a meetup. So we decided, hopefully you're caffeinated, but maybe to wake us up a little bit more, we do a little icebreaker. So if you have anyone near you or there are a couple of people, just make an eye contact and share a little thing. What is something unimportant that you have strong opinions about? If it's from the product world, could be awesome, could be anything. So just go and share. How many key results is appropriate to have next to your OKR?
My voice.
Okay. What about
What about you? Oh yeah. You don't want to die. Yeah. My other one is yeah. Not automated.
That's how I got.
You're gonna be
like gravy.
You can get one like the one.
Right. Hey, I hope you all had good time chatting a little bit. Hey, about something important. Now let's jump back into the slides. Hey, yeah, slides. Cool. So first of all, and just a little bit, promise about who we actually are. So we're all from a company called Octopus Deploy. This is a company now working across the globe, started years ago in Australia, and it's all about how you deploy software. And it might sound not such a big problem, and maybe it's not if you're a very small company, but as soon as you grow, you have a lot of issues with, hey, I have so many people writing the code, I have so many tools, and I have maybe heterogeneous landscape with dozens, if not hundreds, of targets where I'm deploying to. And here, with all this complexity, Octopus just helps you solve this and give you a lot of visibility and control and make experience good for developers and also for people responsible for DevOps, platform, or however they call them. So today, we're going to talk about how we build product in Octopus. And we have 4 speakers here, starting in alphabetical order from Colin, who leads all R&D and our product. Then Irina, leading one of the product groups. Myself, I lead one of the teams, and Ships, also leading one of the product teams. Our talk today will be structured in something like a natural order of product development. How you do product starting from discovery, then you plan your work, you share this with your stakeholders, then you launch the product, and finally, to sum it all up, how important to have a right product culture so everything above would be possible. Right, I hope we'll have some time in the end to answer some questions. So I'll kick it off. My chat is about how we decide what we're building, the product discovery. And let me start with, hopefully all of us here know what product discovery is, right? We know how to build products. Build products in never-ending cycle of doing research, learning some small potential improvement for our customers, finding few solutions, testing which one is the best, shipping this, measuring the results, doing this again and again and again and again. However, my personal strong opinion, that's not enough. It's like you have a team which just shipped to an island and you have a map You know that there is some treasure on this island, but unfortunately, on your map there is no cross, so you have no idea where the treasure is. And you start digging, and you think about, oh, what's the most feasible way to dig? It's probably on the beach, right? Because there is a lot of sand. And you start digging, and after a month, you figure out that there is no treasure. And you keep digging again and again and again. And, well, if you're very lucky, one day you might find it. Maybe your island is so small that you will get it soon. Maybe you have a lot of treasure. You're lucky, you have great domain, and you find treasure this way. But most of the time, you just spend months or years, and there won't be anything. So that's why this iterative process might not just do a great job for you. What you can do instead? I believe you could have some high-level research to drive your iterations, to find some path or something like a North Star where you're going, and then your cycles will make more sense and they will actually get you closer to the goal. So hopefully in 10 minutes, I can share my experience from my current job, how to get from uncertainty to guided iterative process, and how to make it a little bit more confident. I mean, probably you can't promise much here anyway. So, less than a year ago, September last year, I started an Octopus, and as a completely new product manager with a brand new team. And we had a business problem in front of us. The problem was something like, let's make container deployments great in Octopus and great for our customers. We could jump straight into thinking about, hey, these are the things we can improve and start shipping them one after another. But instead, we took a step back and started to think about what does it actually mean and what we want from this container experience in Octopus. And we went through 3 stages. And I'll just share with you how we did that. The first stage was, let's understand the business problem. Because you think about this a bit more, having great experience for something, it's not quite a problem, right? The problem should be well defined. It should be probably written somewhere, and people should understand it in the same way. So you should measure the problem. You should understand, if I get there, how will I know that? And you should ask any of your stakeholders at any moment in time, and they should probably tell you the same thing. Because if you have a different understanding of the problem, well, you're in trouble. So the problem is a story. It's in 3 years or in 5 years, when we all get to work and we look at our container story in Octopus, we see this. And that means that for our company. It could be something like, we won this market. It could be something that like, we retain these customers. It could be we got to this country, or whatever it is, but it should be very concrete. And how we did that, and why we recommend doing this, is, well, start with your company strategy. Understand really how company earn money, because in depth, not just we sell licenses. How exactly we sell licenses, who we sell it for, why people buy it, why this license, not that license. What's the mechanism behind that? Then talk to your stakeholders. Just go to everyone and ask them, hey, what's your problem with this area, in my case, containers? Why are you unhappy about it? What could be done better? What are your thoughts? Let them share. Study the domain. Understand what is going on around the world in this area. What are the trends? For example, when I learned that, I realized that containers is actually one just small piece of the puzzle. There are other things happening around. People change how they build software. They change architecture. That drives another change. They change org structure. New teams appear. Other shading. For example, DevOps concept is changing, right? People change the tooling. And it's really hard to say what was first, containers or everything else just pushed containers on top of the current tech stack. So that changed the framing of the problem, because instead of solving the problem for how we deploy containers, we should solve the problem of how we can provide a good product for this new changing reality. And finally, take a look at competitors. Do they know about the problem? Do they have it? Do they care about it? The business problem, not the product problem yet. Do they do something to get where you want to be? And, well, it would look like a lot of sticky notes on a board, a virtual board. It will look like a lot of documents, half-baked. And you ended up with something like this. And by the way, it will evolve. We change it like 15 times after that. But you need something written, because it's always better to have something. and evolve later. After that, okay, I know what I want as a business. Now it's time to think about the most important person in the room, right? The customer. What they want. So what is the product problem here? And again, we're not talking about some small product problem like, hey, this function is not really convenient, or this process is not trustworthy. You'll get there later. Think about the big problem. Think about, as a customer, I have this challenge in front of me now, and I don't know how to cope with the challenge. So what should you answer here? First of all, who is the actual customer? It's not enough to say it's a big company of this number of people. Learn in depth what they do, why they're successful, why they're winning the market, why they're losing, who they're losing to. Are they struggling to hire people? Are they international? How people work? Who make decisions in the company? Think about all that, because without this, it's really hard to imagine how you help them. Then, what problem they have? Understand the problem, as I said before, in very deep level about, again, tell the story. I'm a customer, I walk in the office, and I have this, and this in front of me. What do I do? Then think about, why do you care about the problem? And it's not just, it's actually a big question, because you have your vision, you have your mission, you have your company values. Do you care about the problem? Don't solve the problem we shouldn't care about, you won't do it anyway. And finally, what part of the problem you solve first, right? On a very high level, do I jump, because problems are big, right? If I jump in this area or I jump here, have a little bit of understanding here. How we did that? So I love personas and everything about them, but I don't really think they work for B2C, in the beginning at least. So instead, we employed job to be done and outcome-driven innovation. So we literally spent maybe a couple of months just asking people about what job they do. We try to make it as generic as possible, but not too generic, so it's still within our goals and vision as a company. We broke it down into pieces of the job to be done process, and we mapped needs behind each of these steps. And then we jumped into personas, and we built persona for a customer, how they do, what they don't do. We build personas for our non-customers who we don't care about. And we also build similar boards for each role inside the customer. DevOps engineer, platform engineer, software engineer, the manager, what they do, and again, how they interact with the company, how they interact with the job to be done. And as soon as you do that, you start looking at this as a customer story. So this software engineer just shipped their 101st microservice, and they go into some tool and they start deployment, and then there is another manager who goes and start checking the metrics, and there's a platform team engineer who does this and that, and it just start to get shape, and you see why it's maybe not working for them at the moment. And finally, study the community. And when I say that, I mean not like competitors here, but community of engineers or community of platform engineers. They talk about this all the time, so they know the problems they have, and you can just not steal, but sneak peek this problem from them. So, you know the problem, you know your company goal. Now it's time to build a solution. Here, it's a big danger, potential danger. You don't want to build a solution as it was like a year ago, 15, 20 years ago. So you don't want to build a solution, write a specification, give it developers to deliver in a year. No, you don't want to build that. You want to build very high level, very abstract, but specific enough to get people on the journey solution. You need to imagine the future. It's another story. It's a story about how great it will be in 5 years when you do that. What would be different for your customer when they come to work next morning after you ship this? How they would be better equipped comparing to how it was before. And here you answer the questions like, what my approach to the problem? Not solution, approach. How do I get there? What are the guide rails? What I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do here. What are differentiators? What I could be possible doing differently from my competitors or from how they do it now. And finally, high level. Again, high level solution. Don't go deep in the details. Again, you will change it in the future. How we did that? So we locked our team and stakeholders, first of all in virtual room, a couple of weeks ago in actual physical room for 5 days, and we spent a lot of time just drawing on the board. We crafted the story, the road PRFQ. You can do something else, but write a story. And then people will, it's always easy to criticize if there is something written. Just give them something to criticize. That will help. Run pre-mortem. That's amazing. After you did first 2 steps, you just get together and say, okay, in 5 years we failed completely, miserably. No one likes us. People post jokes about us in the web. Why it happened? So what went wrong? And finally, take all this and go and test. Start with your stakeholders, then with all other people in the company you can find, then go to your trusted customers or competitors or community and just have a chat. People love talking, actually. They will help you. So it's still in progress, so I blew it, sorry. But you literally ended up with something like this, a diagram, and something like this, a bunch of cards. And it just describes how the solution works. Not going deep, but giving you like the main, components there. And now you're happy product manager. So you have everything you need to start actually do the day-to-day work. Final things, just do sanity checks. Ensure that everything you build is actually still aligned with your business. Set something like a North Star metric or benchmark or health metric. Measure your progress. Know whether you're actually getting there, because it's so easy to build this stuff and then start delivering something completely different. Think about product OKR for a quarter or 6 months, not for your team, but maybe for the product. So again, you know the direction you're going and you know how you're getting there. You can measure this. And then, build up your solution tree, start ideation, start sprints, employ any framework you like, and just start shipping. And finally, all these things we mentioned before, don't think about it as a set in stone. Come back every couple of months, not every week. That can drag a team into another cycle of like miserable rethinking and improving. A couple of months, maybe once a quarter, and just think about it again. Lock them in the room again and ask them, hey, is something different now? Did we learn something new? We should change it. If not, fine. If yes, add the changes and move on. And that's it. That's how I believe you should start your product discovery. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Kit. Now everything is easy. We just need to start shipping. Okay, now that we've done the hard part of understanding our business strategy, of understanding our product strategy, our vision, setting some goals, doing really good discovery, getting a grasp of a customer problem space, we're going to start thinking about our plans and shipping. And we need to start thinking about putting our plans into writing and sharing them. At Octopus, we have annual and quarterly planning cycles. Our teams reflect on the work done, impact they created, and what is ahead. What I'll cover today is less about the process of planning, but about how we communicate our plans continuously with our organization and our customers. Now, it's important because product teams don't work in isolation. We come together as a team within an organization who works together to create impact. And this is why consistent and regular communication about our intent of the value we want to ship to our customers is so crucial. Now, Roadmap is a powerful tool in our toolkit to help us with that. And Roadmap is a living document that communicates our product plans as we move from discovery into delivery. And so roadmaps are excellent for creating alignment, both within our teams and with the wider organization, with our stakeholders, for making expectations, priorities, and timelines clear, transparent, and obvious, for communicating the what and the why behind what we're building, the features, our product, what problems we solve, and showing where our focus and funding is going into now and where it could go in the future. Now, roadmaps are this connective tissue that sits between more abstract product vision and product strategy and some outcomes that we set, maybe in the form of OKRs or otherwise, and actually day-to-day work in our teams. And as we move from more abstract to more concrete, we move towards certainty. And if we're doing our job right as product people, at every step of the way, it is very obvious the connection between our delivery plans, the features we ship, improvements we deliver, to our product strategy and to the bigger vision. And so in order to maintain strong product culture that is outcome oriented, and we have empowered product teams figuring out how to solve those difficult problems, it's very important to maintain strong accountability to where we're going, how work is contributing to the strategy and our goals, and transparency. Transparency about the problems we prioritize to solve and how we're solving them. And not all product companies do their road mapping the same way, and I really like seeing how others build roadmaps. So I'm going to tell you a bit about how we landed where we landed at Octopus, the evolution, and how we got there. And I'm going to tell you a little story about that. So just a few years ago, Octopus had, just 3 teams, and everyone knew what everyone was doing. We could only do, a couple of things at a time. Our product was selling itself through product-led growth. We didn't have a large sales organization. It was great. No one needed a roadmap. Everyone knew what's happening. But things started to change. Our R&D has doubled, then doubled again. We hired a sales organization, and we started engaging with large customers, with enterprise organizations. Decision makers who are making purchasing decisions in those organizations, they are not just buying product as it is today, they're buying into our future. That does not necessarily mean that they want to put a bunch of feature requests into the contract before they sign, although that may happen. But what it means usually is that they're curious about the product direction and how we're thinking about our future. And so as we scaled and amount of our teams grew and we started engaging with these larger customers, our stakeholders started finding it difficult to build a view of work in flight and what's coming up next. So our teams used a number of tools to track their work. Some use Trello, some use Jira, some use GitHub issues. And we ended up with a spreadsheet. One spreadsheet to rule them all, because there was no one tool to track all the work. And so our product managers maintained the delivery plan, which is more detailed, more fine granular, looking at a couple of quarters ahead, and our product directors maintained a high-level strategic roadmap, looking up to a year and a half ahead. Now, how many of you manage their roadmap in a spreadsheet? Raise your hand. We can't see people online. No, there's not too many. Well, that's interesting. Do you all have roadmaps? No, just kidding. Okay, well, the thing is, it was great for creating a level of visibility we didn't have before, but we didn't love it. And the reason we didn't love it is that keeping it up to date required a lot of manual effort. It was kind of difficult for stakeholders to make sense of a spreadsheet that was growing larger and larger. We still relied heavily on meetings to keep up to date with who was doing what, and what is coming up next. And well, teams ended up building usually accompanying visuals of their roadmaps, but everyone used their own format. So it was very difficult to stakeholders to digest different formats of the roadmap and reconcile it with a spreadsheet. So next step in our evolution, we now had a single tool to track all the work across the organization. Now, no more manual syncing across multiple tools, no more copy-pasting things around spreadsheets. We had flexibility with filters and various views, and we kind of loved it. It was a great tool for delivery tracking. I think my animation is coming up. Oh, that's strange. Okay. We kind of loved it for delivery tracking, but it wasn't so great for telling the what and the why of the work we were doing and what could come next. Wasn't good for looking ahead. It also had limited capacity to show the health of roadmap items. So we took the next step in the evolution of work visibility. And now we can see the now, next, later. We use a purpose-built tool that shows us more detailed delivery plan. We can show our customers what we shipped, what we are considering, what is coming up next. So we can track our early stage discovery and our delivery plan in one place. And that way we can build visibility of all the work and how it aligns to higher level objectives at every stage. So problem statements, they evolve into solution ideas and they evolve into concrete features that then our marketing and sales organizations can take to market. And the benefits are there is a shared language throughout the whole journey. And there is visibility of all kinds of work at each stage that everyone in the organization can work with. But it's not so much about the tool, though. It's about what it's freed us up to do. It's freed us up to do, and something is wrong with my apologies. It's about the good product practice. And what the good tool freed us up to do is to have meaningful conversations and good storytelling about our work. Now we were able to tell our customers and our organization what is the feature, what does the product does, what does it have, what benefits is it bringing to the customers, what are they able to do, what value are they able to achieve as a result of that, what job to be done is being realized through that. And when we speak to our leaders, we can speak about the impact of work that we do and prioritize. We can have really good conversations about trade-offs. We can speak about the order in which we're going to solve certain problems. We can have helpful conversations about investment. We can visualize what we're able to achieve with more funding at any point in time. And we can see where we might be in a year's time with way less effort. And so we've been working on improving how we describe what's on our roadmap and how do we tell that really, really great story about our product work. So we've been trying to put our product hats on and empathize with a busy reader who does not work in our team, does not have all the context. But we want to make it very easy for them to understand what is coming up in a minute or less. So what do we put there? We like to have a very concise and short, catchy title, something that people will be easy to memorize and recall. We want to have a really good description of a problem in a couple of sentences, which is the why, linking back to the why. And we want to describe the actual solution. Again, very short and concise. It's very obvious. It should be very obvious to the person reading it. What is the difference that we're trying to create? What is the before and the after? And we really like to add visuals to make it really stick and really obvious. Even if it's an early stage prototype, it can change, that's fine. A visual really helps. And so there are two main takeaways that I'd like you to walk away with from today. Roadmaps are not about tools, they're about telling a story. And the story is connecting our vision and our strategy to the day-to-day work we do. And the story is about the tough choices that we make every day as product people and where we could go next. And roadmaps are about enabling go-to-market. So we know as product people we want to be outcome-driven, great product culture, amazing. Well, our friends in marketing and sales, they need to know what they're getting and what our customers are getting. And you need to coordinate and prepare to get the work that we've done into the hands of customers. So at Octopus, it's less about building Gantt charts and precision, but our timeline-based roadmaps, they have quarterly granularity. So our marketing organization can prepare launch announcements. And more on that is coming up next from Ships. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Irina. All right. Today we're going to talk about launching. So you know what problem you're solving from the first part of the talk, right? You've scoped it out. You've communicated really well to your stakeholders. Your team's really excited, ready to build it and go. Great. So you'll build this awesome, shiny new thing, you'll ship it out, and customers will absolutely love it, right? Wrong. So now starts the hard work and the really long journey to actually realize, to get the customer to realize that value, right? You want to figure out who your target users are. Hopefully you've done that before this stage already, but you want to craft the right kind of marketing to get that to your customers. And at Octopus, we like to think of 3 core areas of activities when we're doing this. First up is readiness. So getting your internal organization and everyone within your company, your colleagues, ready and excited to talk about this feature. This means your customer success team and your sales team are really excited to show this feature off. Your marketing team knows how to message it, write the value prop, put it in a newsletter. Your support team can sit right alongside the customer to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. Right, all of that stuff. Second is awareness. So for your target audience, how do you get them aware that there's this new thing that's come out that might be useful to them? Do you know where your users live, what channels they live in? What's the right point in time of their user journey where this communication will make the most impact and will then eventually turn into adoption? So how do you make it really easy for customers or users to adopt this new feature? So Octopus being a technical tool, we actually have, whenever we ship a new feature, a lot of our new features tend to have settings you have to change, or a business process that you have to change, or just data migration stuff as well. So we have to be really mindful to make that really easy, intuitive, seamless, frictionless as possible. And another thing to think about is, how do you measure success? So you've got it in the wild. How do you start putting metrics around stuff and relate it back to the original goal and the problem you were trying to solve? So these are the 3 area of activities. Now, instead of diving into each of them, today I thought I'll walk you through 3 separate artifacts that we use day to day and kind of demonstrate some of this today. So first up is our go-to-market checklist. Now, at Octopus, product managers are recommended that are encouraged to actually think about their launch strategy as soon as they've gone through and crystallized their problem into a product one-pager, or we call it a pitch doc. So they're doing this alongside thinking about their high-level solution. Ideally, you have a first draft of this. Also see us? Yeah, it looks like we're fully back online. Okay, great. So yeah, as I was saying, the first artifact to walk us through today is the go-to-market checklist. And we usually do an early draft of this as soon as we start scoping out the high-level solution. This and I will I'll zoom in a bit so folks can even have a look. So yeah, the first part, as you can see, is already touching on stuff like whether it's an enterprise feature, whether it needs a trial experience, or whether it needs an early access group to be run. So it's already talking about how you're going to test your feature and get your customers to adopt. And it also mentions things like who are your key stakeholders that need to be kept into the loop, which specific teams, and so on. So again, talking about organization readiness. And then as you tend to go closer and closer towards the launch, it gets more and more concrete around that awareness piece, where you're starting to think about exact things you need to produce. So things like help doc changes, newsletter changes, working with product marketing on social media stuff, and newsletters and blog posts and all sorts of other things, right? And then as you get closer and closer after the week of launch, you're also starting to think about what are some of the signals you need to watch out for coming from your customers? What kind of feedback do you expect? Which channels? And then how can you feed that back into your discovery process and start kind of all over again, right? So into your next iteration. So kind of touches on all aspects. And so it's a very much a live document that we expect folks to keep up to date as they're going through their feature, their usual software development lifecycle, right? Okay. Next one. So the next artifact is a sales and support playbook. Now, for features that have a large visible impact and especially a big customer-facing impact, we usually draft out and share one of these ones. It helps it's primarily targeted towards our customer success manager and our support engineers. And it helps them, going back to what I said originally, helps them, understand what the value and benefit of these features are and how to communicate that to customers. They're very busy people. Their day-to-day looks like, very reactive, but they're the front line of our business. They're the ones talking to customers every hour of the day. So we try to create something quick and easy for them to absorb, around about a 2 or 3 page. And you'll see that in a minute. We'll jump into another real life example. Let me see if I can zoom in this one a bit. There we go. That's a bit better. Cool. So this is a playbook from last year. We launched a new enterprise feature. And so we start off talking a bit about the summary of the feature. We even include screenshot, GIFs, videos, whatever really will be helpful for our internal team members to understand the value. And then we also talk about, if we scroll down, the value to customers, what the customer will see, how they can request a trial of this enterprise feature. And also things like how the customer success manager will go about enabling the backend so that the customer gets to see the feature, as well as with a email kind of follow-up template for them ready to use. It then points to a bunch of other artifacts like presentations and help pages and things like that that they can use to sell the feature on to new customers and prospects. And lastly, it also covers a bunch of frequently asked questions. So when the customer comes back with something, they have the answer right there, hopefully. All right, going back. Sweet. The next artifact I want to talk about is our success metrics. Now, this is a very obvious one, but I'm always constantly surprised that how many teams miss this one out, not at a high level, like most of us do success measures at a high level, but how to do it at the next layer of detail. And what I mean by that is not all of the teams do a really good job at thinking about the metrics that define the holistic customer experience. In Octopus, our product is, again, a technical product. So we have to think about tracking not just the behavioral usage metrics that is most commonly thought about when we think about metrics, but also think about our API usage and monitoring. We have to think about, for our on-premise product, how best to track that kind of experience. We have to think about how we tie that back into our business dashboard. So how do we actually tie back to the sales KPIs even? So we think about all of these things, and we then create relevant dashboards to basically start measure our adoption goals. So let me walk you through, again, a real-life artifact that we use. I'll zoom out a bit on this one, actually. Yeah, maybe that's a bit too much. Okay, so you've got your usual things on this, which is around behavioral events, which is you're talking about tracking what kind of event we want to do, what its value should be, and so on. But one of the most important things I want to point out is we actually figure out what is the business question we're trying to answer with each metric that we track. It's not a spray and pray approach. It's very much, we want to track this because it will help us answer this question. And the other thing I want to point out is we have different sections for different parts of the tracking as well. So the top was behavioral, but this one's a bit incomplete, but there's more sections based on the different types of tracking that we want to do, as I mentioned earlier. So that's Yeah, so that's the last artifact I wanted to share with you today. And so I've walked through 3 different artifacts that we use in our as product managers at Octopus. There's a bunch more that we actually do, and that forms part of our product manager toolbox. It's like having a menu of options, and no one recipe is right for every feature that we launch. And this is really where that art of product management and experience comes in to ensuring you're selecting the right tool. And once we launch something, then we go ahead and repeat it all over again for the next iteration or the next product opportunity. Now, before I leave you today, I thought I'd share some learnings from my experience of working across B2B as well as B2C in the past, and what the difference is when you think about go-to-market in those sorts of 2 contexts. First up, in B2B, users are really being paid to use your product. So they're being told or they're being paid. It's not their main job to use your product. They're using it as a tool to enable them to do their main day-to-day job, right? And what that means is that they don't really care about every new feature that's coming out. There's no motivation or direct reward for them to go and discover this new thing and make it better. And it's not really their job to become an expert in your tool. So you're the expert and you have to push them to help with that, which leads me to my next point, is that we need to make value and benefits of anything we ship extremely explicit for our users. They're busy people, just like you and me. And a lot of your early adopters might go in and tinker in and try and understand that, but a lot of the late majority or majority of the users won't. So it's our job to be experts in our product and teach that to users. We often talk about building in the right guardrails so that the users are falling into the pit of success and adopting the best DevOps practices by default. And lastly, targeted product marketing is really crucial. Whoops, we're lagging a bit behind. Okay. So targeted product marketing is really crucial. In B2B, your customer is another company. That company has many users, and not every feature will be useful to every user within that company. So really targeting the right users within your customer company is, again, really important to get that awareness and adoption. And so lastly, it's just a lot more work, right? And so to do all that work, you need a very well-supported product organization. And Colin will talk to you about that today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ships and Kit and Irina. Look, very proud of the product team. And you can go out and hire the best people, but if you're not enabling them, if you're not thinking about the system around them, they're just going to get frustrated and leave. But I've been very fortunate to build up a great product team, and they're still with me and looking to grow, and tell you more about how we'll hire some more later. But look, I'm an executive at Octopus. I don't do a lot of the stuff that you hear about day to day. I've been in the trenches. I've done it in the past. But actually, I explicitly look at my role and think about it as my job is not to be in the day to day thinking about all these things in the weeds. That's actually an anti-pattern for me. And so if you're working with a product leader who wants to get in the weeds day to day, that's probably not a great place to be, if I'm honest, because it means that you can't scale your product teams. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about the system around my folks, because that's my product. My product is the system that produces the product. And what can I do to make sure that they are successful, that they understand the general direction of things, and then they've got the right practices and are scaling themselves up and challenging them to work in a growing organization. For context, Octopus, when I joined, was around 100 or so people. We're just over 200 now. We'll probably add another 30, 40, 50 next year inside R&D alone. So we're a growing company. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of people. There's a few folks that have been here for a long time, but there's a lot of folks that have been here for 1, 2, 3 years. And so there's a lot of change happening in the organization. And so one of the very first tools that I look at my job doing is really about spending a lot of time setting context. And I was talking to the CEO of Redgate or the founder of Redgate, and he was saying, Colin, you've got to just kind of keep repeating the strategy until you're sick of it, and then you got to repeat it 10 times more. And it is just so true that you got to keep setting the context. But for us, being a distributed team with people in all across Australia, New Zealand, from an R&D perspective, and then kind of globally from a sales and customer success perspective, I've actually also got to work on writing that down. Now, it's not a case of I'm going to lock myself in a room. I'm going to spend hours writing a 600-page manifest and publish that book and earn royalties off of it. It's actually knowing how to write just enough that's helpful and write it down and try and keep it up to date or get back to it when it grows long in the tooth. And so we think about, that context in a couple of different things. It's not one document. It's not one big long thing. It's tools, kind of like, Irina was talking about with roadmaps that tell a story. And so, for example, at a business level, we have a handbook, and you can see our handbook online at handbook.octopus.com. You see the public cut, and there's a private cut. The public cut really sets out the big, broad strokes so that when you're joining the organization, you know what you're getting yourself into, you know how we think. The private one goes into a little bit more detail in terms of how certain policies and processes and stuff work inside Octopus. We talk a lot about playbooks. These are the how-tos. How do I get stuff done? And you saw one today, the go-to-market checklist. That's an example of one of the playbooks that we have. And there's various levels. There's some that are just checklists. Some of them are like step-by-step. When you add a customer or you convert a customer to enterprise, here's the steps on how to do that. So again, those are not just the it's not just me writing them. It's all of us writing and contributing to them. But it's me sitting there thinking about, do I have the right handbooks? Do I have the right playbooks? I'm listening for those signals through the organization, asking myself what's missing. And that's my job. That's what I author, is to help all of these folks be more and more effective. It's to provide them clarity. It's not telling them how to do their job. In a lot of cases, we'll co-write them. I'll start off and say, hey, it looks like we're a little bit all over the place when it comes to tracking work. And that's actually, when we look back to our original kind of roadmap, let's do it in a spreadsheet. We started there. Here's the problem. Here's kind of some rough things. And then we all work together to refine and create that playbook. At a product side, it's setting the vision, which is very much the proximate checklist, just to demystify it. It's not, here's the list of 15 features we need. It's kind of in 5 years' time, when we set the standard for how enterprises release and operate software, this is kind of what it means to the customer. This is the types of stories that they're going to be telling about how Octopus plays a role in their life. And then, more recently, we've been working on actually writing down the product direction, which is more the big block, like here are the blocks that we're going to do next year, the year after that, kind of roughly to get there. And it kind of helps us just try and take that vision and turn it into something more and more concrete. And actually, Microsoft does actually a reasonably good job of this. Actually, I was looking at the Office productivity vision video from 2015. And boy, a lot of that tech now exists. Not quite as space agey as the video, but it was actually a really good articulation of a product direction about where we're going and how we collaborate and how we communicate and how we use our productivity tools. So you try and provide all of that context. And why do you do that? And why do you focus on that? It's because every day they're making decisions, whether they're starting out in product teams and trying to figure out which way do we go, whether they're trying to fine tune their execution and make day-to-day decisions about which way next. That's all really important context to help them make decisions. It's not Colin making decisions. I trust my product teams. I empower them by providing context. Now, I've got different types of teams in the organization as well. And again, this is something kind of, hard learned lessons over time is there is no one process book to rule them all. You cannot hire a consultant to come in and say, this is the way you do product. You follow exactly this process A to B. Every single team works like this, and you work. You've got to be adaptable because you'll have different teams that will not just want, but actually have the capacity to operate in different ways. And so we've got new teams who are just starting out. Their job at the moment is just to figure out what is the first kind of, how do I find my start? And so they don't need a lot of overhead process. They just need to iterate quickly through that discovery. I've got teams like, for example, my Fire in Motion team, which is responsible for little bits of customer happiness. For them, they just need the guardrails in their processes to make sure they don't overcommit and they don't go dark for several quarters. because that's not part of their mission. So we talk a lot about the purpose of the team, and we talk about those in terms of missions and ownership. And missions are not go build a feature, it's go solve this problem, go make this difference in the customer, and then you come back and tell me how you're going to approach that. So we're trying to avoid those kind of feature factory teams in the mix. And we talk about ownership in terms of product areas. You own this area, you own this experience, you're thinking deeply about this day in, day out. Then we try and support those teams through work. And again, handbooks and playbooks, same language, following through. We also help some teams, especially new teams, where we provide what we call sensible defaults. If you don't have an opinion about how you are going to track your work, here's a place to start. And take it or leave it, adapt it. I don't really care if one team wants to call it ready for review or ready for peer review or ready for inspection. What I care about is the outcome. So we provide sensible defaults. We also have a lot of teams that really sort out their own roles and responsibilities because we have different strengths inside each of these teams. Some of them have really strong UX designers who are part of the product leadership team and are driving the vision. Others have designers who are up and coming and they want to contribute, but they're not ready there yet. And so we talk about roles and responsibilities in the mix. And then alignment. And again, we spoke about that a little bit earlier. We have a quarterly and an annual planning process. And again, that's not about making a commitment and somehow you failed because in 3 quarters out from now, you didn't deliver this little thing. It's about saying, okay, we're all still heading in this direction. That's right. Yep. Okay, we're good. So again, running that alignment process. So my job is to put some tools in the toolbox for the teams. And again, my job in a lot of cases is just to say, hey, here's the part of the toolbox. Teams, what are you all using? How should we do this? So things like the go-to-market checklist came because we're all doing a couple of different things. There's probably a sensible default here. So let's start sketching that together. So it's, again, thinking about the tools my teams have and ensuring they have the right tools. Then finally, my last role inside a lot of these teams is creating that cross-functional connection. So the nature of my role is I spend a lot of time talking to my sales teams, customer success, marketing, customers, finance, etc., as well as a bunch of different teams. I hear about all the different teams and their challenges. And so my job is to say, hey, you should go talk to this other person. I think the two of you will have something in common. They might have solved that problem before, or they can help you, or you're hitting a point in your product release cycle where you need to go touch base with that person. And so think about a lot of different tools to create that cross-functional connection so that, again, I'm encouraging that system to grow. And first and foremost, empathy. There's nothing better than appreciating the fact that it's another human on the other end of Zoom that is just trying to do their best every single day. And just remind people of that constantly. And so, we try and be open by default. Actually, this is the first job where I think I only open email a couple of times a week. Most of our stuff is done in Slack, and it's not about Slack. It's about the fact that it's not hidden. It's not Colin is holding on to this knowledge. It's I can go find it if I need it. I don't have to pay attention to every channel, but I know I can go find it. It's not a hidden thing. It's empathy in terms of ride-alongs, bringing engineers onto customer calls. Again, these folks can tell you all about that and saying hey, go feel that customer pain, listen to them. It's about team representation as well. I've got a product manager and an engineering director in Scotland this week at a customer success planning session. They represent R&D. I don't need to be there because they are the face of R&D. I'm encouraging more and more people to be able to represent us as a whole, and it doesn't always need to be Colin being everywhere. We build that momentum. We have lots of tools to build momentum, whether it's kind of check-ins with your stakeholders, and again, a lot of the product managers will drive those. We also have heartbeats every week, teams just sharing, hey, here's the thing we did this week. As well as postcards. Here's a screenshot of something cool that happened, a customer feedback, or hey, it works on my machine. Just that constant kind of pride coming forward. And boy, that's so energizing. I just came back from 2 weeks of leave. My very first channel I hit was postcards and positive. Just getting all of that positive dopamine hit just got me excited. All right, this is cool. Let's get back into it and let's do some more great stuff. And then we try and create that cohesion as well. And I mentioned that earlier, kind of getting to know the person behind the Zoom. And so we do things like virtual donuts where the rule is no shop talk. I just It's a half an hour just chatting, getting to know people. And my favorite question is, what are you listening to? What can I add to my playlist? And so I've grown my music collection off the back of that, and met some really interesting people along the way. We're also getting a lot more being distributed. We've got a travel budget where we try and get teams together at least once a year. Next year might be twice a year, because it's been such a positive experience. It's exhausting, working from home all the time, and then you go 5 days fully intensive working in person. But boy, everybody has walked out going, I'd do that again. I'd do that. I'm exhausted, but I'd do that again. And then, of course, the everyday kudos, just recognizing those small things. That positive channel is for me for a chance, and there'll be a kudos post this saying how amazing this team has done at representing how we work as Octopus. But that stuff matters every single day, and it creates that environment of we're all in it together. We're all trying to head towards this goal, and we have tools to do our job, and we've got that motivation and that recognition that what we're doing actually matters. And so that's my job, to build the system, and then simply continue to hire more great people, provide them structures and boundaries that they can operate in, and then hopefully we'll be 500-600 people IPOing at some point, and be able to look back and go, wow, that was a really amazing ride. Let's take it, rinse, repeat, and build a bit of an Octopus Deploy alumni. So that's a little bit about the culture. That's my role as an executive. I'm not there to kind of get into the weeds of things. I'm there to listen, to provide any of my past experience, but I don't need to be the expert in all the things. And so that helps us really kind of get to happy deployments. Because at the end of the day, if we've got a happy team that's solving really interesting problems, then we can help our customers solve their problems. And then that leads to thriving organizations in the end. And of course, my usual pitch, if you know me, if this sounds really interesting, we're just starting to look for technical, can I announce?
Senior technical product manager.
So the role is up. Yeah, the role is up, but we'll as well be growing as well in the future. We'd love it to have more great people come join us. So that's my pitch. Happy to answer questions. I think that was the last slide. So there we go. Oh, yeah. Sorry, we got to do the post preamble of the. So in September, we're having our very first in-person conference. It's been 3 years we've been talking about this, 4 years, DJ? It's more than that. We've been envisioning, and so there's a team doing a lot of hard work to try and bring together all of the product people in New Zealand. And there's lots of us. I look in the Slack community. We're over 1,000 now, I think, in the Slack community. So this has been really exciting, years in the making, but we're going to bring everybody together. We're going to start with here in Auckland to begin with, 2 days. I really hope you can all make it. If you've joined any of our unconferences, you know how cool and awesome those events are. This is going to be even better. We've got some great speakers, some product folks from around New Zealand. We've got a couple of external or kind of out of country speakers flying in for this. So really, really excited. Please, tell your coworkers, tell your friends that are thinking about even product roles. If they've never experienced product, and they're thinking, hey, I really love everything you're doing sounds really interesting. Have them come along, meet some others. This is going to be a really amazing event. I'm looking forward to it. I think we're all looking forward to it. So you'll see a few Octonaut shirts around the space. Yeah, I think anything else I should add? No? Okay, cool. So please come if you haven't signed up. All right. Questions? We will, for the purpose of the folks on the mic, we will take your question, repeat it back, and go from there. I know it's Monday morning. So should we rehash that question? So when we're offline, we killed some time by asking a question. The question was around the pre-mortem. And I'm just going to try and, it was, do you look at the success factors or the success scenario in pre-mortems, as well as the failure scenario?
In the pre-mortem, you think about, in 5 years' time, what if this fell miserably? What might have contributed to that? Are you also looking at, well, what if this is a runaway success? Just thinking about the kind of stretch goals thing, because we all look at, what the success look at. Do we look at what would wild on their lives?
Yeah. So the question was really kind of, so if the pre-mortem is focused on the failure scenario, the success scenario, what is the wildly successful scenario, and what did we do to create that runaway success? So I'm going to pass over to Kit.
I was actually thinking more about this. And I realized that we actually thinking about the success scenario all the time before that. So we're imagining the future and we're thinking about how we can get to the success, and there is no limit. You never think about this as, well, I got to the point when I got like 100 customers and then it's enough, right? You probably think about the best possible picture, and then and pre-mortem you think about what if you didn't achieve that and what if you didn't achieve the metric, right? So yeah, kind of this. Not during pre-mortem, but yeah, you're actually thinking about this. Thanks.
Right. So, for you, talked a lot about the planning or the plan and how that's communicated to the company. And I was curious from an engineering perspective. Colin gave maybe a little hint about this, but I was curious about. Could you give some examples about how the engineers might use that information from the plan?
Yeah, nice. Thank you. So the question is about planning and how we communicate our plans around the org and how engineers make use of the communication about planning and what's coming up. So we work in a product trio model, and planning doesn't happen by product people in an ivory tower. Planning happens ideally with a designer and an engineer in the room, and wider engineering team as well. So when we do our quarterly planning cadence, is a time to rethink our roadmap, look ahead, and decide. So different teams have different versions of ways of working. Some use betting table, some use other decision-making mechanisms. So everyone wears a hat of their strengths, where the product person is responsible for what and the why, designer is responsible for what and the how, and engineer is responsible for the how and for technical feasibility. And it's a collaborative process of making trade-offs, deciding what we could do now, what we could do later, what is the best way to solve a particular problem. And that plan gets built together. When we publish our quarterly planning docs, the team will work together to create visibility, contribute to the doc, share it around. Engineers, same way as anyone else in the organization, can go and access other teams' plans and other department plans, look for opportunities for collaboration or asks for help and how they can step in. Did that answer your question? Yeah, cool.
Good example. We actually had a great example just a couple of weeks ago. So our team just recently shipped a new, it's technical, but doesn't matter. We found a good way to source configuration file for Kubernetes from Git, right? Very direct for our particular group of customers using this tool. And then one of the salespeople noticed it in the roadmap and say, hey, we actually have similar question for our other steps like Terraform. And he posted that, I think in the COD or somewhere else, basically in the discussion of this tool. And then another engineering team said, okay, we actually think that it would be awesome to build this for a lot of other steps, and we're happy to own this. So can we just reuse your thing and add it to 5 different other places in the product? And now it's happening. So they would probably never discover that in this way without this visibility inside the org. So it's working.
Sorry, before you jump there, I was going to add one other thing. Going through that process of communication, not every team has a product manager dedicated today. That's coming. We're growing it. But I remember early days, I think you had joined, and I think that was kind of about it. So we were kind of 4, 5, 6 product managers. And one of the teams, they basically had to live up to the standard that the product managers were setting and write this big long plan and communicate it out and things like that. And I remember them coming back to me, this engineering manager, saying, boy, I really want a product manager because this communication alignment thing is a lot of work. So it was a good opportunity to, again, just build that empathy and set that ground, because communication is a lot of work. So it's great to kind of also feel that some of that two-way kind of empathy. It's not just throwing it over. It's no, this is important. They saw the value of it, but they also saw the work associated with it. Sorry, question online.
We'll make this the last question as well because we're slightly over time. So the question online, and you're going to have to tell me whether or not this one is actually relevant to Octopus, is the classic transitioning out of that sales-led model. Is that something that you've seen at Octopus? Has that been a thing? And if so, kind of how did it roll?
Yeah, so look, probably a long question. We actually came from product-led. We didn't have a sales team a couple of years ago. And then we had a couple of folks that really just processed quotes and renewals to really kind of within the last 12 to 18 months trying to actually have a sales team. And I'd say even within the last 12 months having an actual enterprise sales team. So most of our customers come through swiping the credit card. That still happens today. Had a large car manufacturer in Canada just swipe their credit card and start with a $1,500 license, and we will grow them over time. That's something that actually for us is fundamental, and we will fight to keep inside the product, because for us as product people, it keeps us honest. If you have no sales team pushing your product has to be good, because you're relying on your user in a corporate environment to figure out how to go pay for something to buy your product. That's a lot of hurdles based on a number of customers I've talked to. And so I think that's just a really critical part of our business. So we're kind of coming the other way. We're product led, adding sales, but we're doing so very mindfully and learning a ton along the way.